was written during their correspondences, at the peak of their success, shall we say. And it was mapping out a future plan to establish 3 consecutive world wars which would destabilize the Western world, and they can then basically take control. That's basically the gist of it. And it was a long-term goal, a long-term plan. It wasn't something they thought they would see in their lifetime, that's for sure. If it is something that they were saying, the Brotherhood must continue the great work on this matter so we can have total control. And obviously ushering the true Messiah of the world, the guiding light of Lucifer, as he would describe it. And it seems like you read this letter, this was the script that played out pretty much through the 20th century, and we're in the end game of it now. But the letter itself has been heavily contested. I can't say this, officially speaking, this letter doesn't exist. It was supposedly on display at the library in London, the main library there in London. It was on display up until 1977 when it was removed, and they claim, and they have no record of it, and they do not have it in their archives. So officially speaking, this letter does not exist. Copies were made, people wrote it down, people have spoke about it, and it's been passed down to where we have it today. And it does seem like, when you read this, it's eerie. So we're just going to read the letter now, and then I'll jump in with some commentary afterwards about what I've noticed happening recently in the wake of this assassination and the kind of the after effects. So we're not focusing on the assassination itself today. I've kind of, I've done all I have to really say on that, but the after effects are where I'm kind of focusing here today. And I do think we can make some parallels here, which are interesting and worth remembering and taking note of, especially if you've been in the game for a while, and just as a healthy reminder. So here it is. I'll share the screen with you guys. Let me just make sure I've got the right page up first. Here it is. So this is the letter. I got this from someone's Samim on X posted this. But if we read this quickly, I'm sure I can see on the screen. So the following letter is a speculation claim that Albert Pike wrote to Giuseppe Mazzini in 1871 regarding a conspiracy involving 3 world wars that were planned in an attempt to take over the world. The Pike letter to Giuseppe Mazzini was on display in the British Museum Library in London until 1977. This letter has been claimed by many internet sites to reside in the British Library in London, which denies its exists. So again, doesn't really exist. Giuseppe was a revolutionary leader in the mid-1800s, and Albert Pike was a 33rd degree Mason, Grand Master, and he created the lodge in the southern jurisdiction. So there we go. So let's just keep reading here. So this is like quotes from the letter itself. And this is actually something I did quote in my own book when discussing what Freemasonry is and kind of where the beliefs lie, their allegiances lie, their connections to ancient mystery wisdom cults and schools, and kind of where they stand on the world stage. So here it is, quotes, "The First World War must be brought about in order to permit the Illuminati to overthrow the power of the Tsars in Russia, and of making that country a fortress of atheistic communism. The divergences caused by the agents of the Illuminati between the British and Germanic empires will be used to foment this war. At the end of the war, communism will be built and used in order to destroy the governments and in order to weaken the religions." So step 1. Step 2, the Second World War. "It must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences between the fascists and the political Zionists. This war must be brought about so that Nazism is destroyed and that the political Zionism be strong enough to institute a sovereign state of Israel in Palestine. During the Second World War, international communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we would need it for the final cataclysm." When Nazism is used in Israel and Palestine, this language is very modern language because obviously the Nazi party didn't exist in 1871. International communism must become strong enough in order to balance Christendom, which would be then restrained and held in check until the time when we need it for the final social cataclysm. So the idea is that is Christendom being the thing that's restrained and held in check, or was it communism here? It's hard to say what the reference was here, but I'm starting to think this was supposed to be about keeping Christendom down, keeping Christendom passive, keeping Christendom focused on the nation of Israel rather than their own salvation and the relationship with Christ, and obviously capitulating only to what that nation wants as God's obviously special chosen people, so they say, and the idea that, this would pacify Christendom for so long, and obviously the communists themselves would be the antagonists that would always kind of make Christianity kind of act accordingly when faced with such enemies, shall we say, and obviously turn the other cheek is the main ethos of Christendom, and has communism in a way been, or shall we say, the new social Marxist, social justice warrior flavour of communism, which you have in the modern day. We could say in many ways the fear of cancel culture, the fear of being labelled a racist or a bigot or whatever you want under the sun, has certainly kept a lot of Christians perhaps scared to speak out or scared to put their head up above the crowd, because it's just such a charged political climate that you would be putting yourself on a pedestal and perhaps in the firing line by doing such a thing. So I do feel like maybe that has been the case. So we go to the Third World War here. It must be fomented by taking advantage of the differences caused by the agenter of the Illuminati between the political Zionists and the leaders of the Islamic world. The war must be conducted in such a way that Islam, the Muslim Arabic world, and political Zionism, the state of Israel, mutually destroy each other. Meanwhile, the other nations, once more divided on the issue, will be constrained to fight to the point of complete physical, moral, spiritual, and economical exhaustion. We shall unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and we shall provoke a formidable social cataclysm in which, in all its horror, will show clearly to the nations the effect of absolute atheism, the origin of savagery, and the most bloody turmoil. Then everywhere the citizens are obliged to defend themselves against the world minority of revolutionaries will exterminate those destroyers of civilization. So this is where things are getting a bit dark and where I think we might be seeing ourselves today, so let's just keep going. And the multitude, disillusioned with Christianity, whose deistic spirits will from that moment be without compass or direction, anxious for an ideal but without knowing where to render its adoration, will receive the true light through the universal manifestation of the pure doctrine of Lucifer, brought finally out in the public view. This manifestation will result from the general reactionary movement, which will follow the destruction of Christianity and atheism, both conquered and exterminated.